I signed the non-disclosure agreement with a government-issued pen that barely worked, scratching my name across paper so thick it felt like fabric. The woman across from me, Dr. Patricia Weaver, didn't smile as she collected the document and slid it into a manila folder. She was maybe 55, with grey hair pulled back so tight it looked painful, and eyes that had seen things that made her stop caring about pleasantries. "Welcome to the Foundation, Mr. Reed," she said, standing. "Follow me." That was 6 months ago, and I still don't know if signing that paper was the best decision I ever made, or the worst. Let me back up. My name is Daniel Reed. I'm 28 years old, and until last spring, I worked as a security analyst for a tech company in Philadelphia. Boring work, mostly. I spent my days looking at data breaches and my nights alone in my apartment, which was exactly how I liked it. After my ex-girlfriend, Emily, decided she needed someone more present. I was present. I was just present somewhere else, doing something she couldn't understand. Maybe that's why they recruited me. The invitation came through my work email, which should have been my first red flag. The message was simple. Your analytical skills have been noted. A government position requiring top secret clearance is available. Interested candidates should respond within 24 hours. There was a phone number, nothing else. I almost deleted it. Then I called. 3 weeks later, after interviews, psychological evaluations, and a background check so thorough they knew what I'd eaten for breakfast on my 10th birthday, I was hired. They never told me the name of the agency. Everyone just called it the Foundation. The facility was located in rural Pennsylvania, a 3-hour drive from anything resembling civilization. From the outside, it looked like an agricultural research center, complete with rusted silos and a faded sign about corn genetics. The inside was something else entirely. Dr. Weaver led me through security checkpoints that required retinal scans, fingerprints, and a card that hung around my neck on a lanyard that felt too tight. We descended in an elevator that had buttons for 7 basement levels. She pressed the button marked B3. "You'll be assigned to Containment Wing D," she explained, as the elevator hummed downward. "Your primary responsibility is observation and reporting. You will monitor camera feeds, conduct hourly rounds, and document any anomalies." "Anomalies?" I asked. She finally looked at me, and there was something in her eyes that made my stomach tighten. "Things that shouldn't exist, Mr. Reed. Things that defy conventional understanding. We contain them, we study them, and most importantly, we ensure they never reach the public." The elevator doors opened onto a concrete hallway lit by fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry insects. The air smelled like disinfectant and something else underneath it, something organic and wrong. "This is Wing D," Dr. Weaver said, walking briskly down the hallway. I followed, trying not to look too closely at the heavy steel doors we passed. Each one had a number painted in white. Some had small windows made of glass, so thick it looked green. "You'll be working the night shift, 11 to 7. Your partner will be Tommy Vasquez. He's been with us for 6 months and will help you acclimate." She stopped at a small office equipped with monitors showing various camera feeds. A young guy, maybe 25, sat in a rolling chair, his leg bouncing nervously. He had dark circles under his eyes that made him look like he hadn't slept in weeks. Tommy, this is Daniel Reed. He'll be your new partner. Dr. Weaver placed a thick handbook on the desk with a heavy thud. Mr. Reed, this contains the rules specific to Wing D. Read them carefully. Memorize them. Your survival depends on it. Survival, I repeated, trying to laugh. It came out wrong. Dr. Weaver didn't smile. The rules aren't suggestions, Mr. Reed. Previous employees who failed to follow them are no longer with us. Study the handbook. Your first shift begins tonight at 11. She left, her footsteps echoing down the hallway until they faded completely. Tommy stood up and extended his hand. His palm was sweaty. Hey, man, welcome to the weirdest job you'll ever have. I shook his hand and picked up the handbook. It was bound in black leather, worn smooth by previous hands. I wondered how many people had read this before me and where they were now. Is she serious about the survival thing? I asked. Tommy's leg started bouncing again. Yeah, man, she's serious. The rules are, look, just follow them exactly. Don't try to figure out why they exist. Don't try to be clever. Just do exactly what they say, when they say to do it. I opened the handbook. The first page listed general rules for Wing D. The second page started listing rules for specific subjects and locations. My hands felt cold as I read. Rule number 1. Never make direct eye contact with Subject 47 through the observation window. You may look at Subject 47, but only at his body below the neck, or observe him through reflective surfaces. Rule number 2. If you hear children laughing in hallway C after 8 o'clock, walk backwards until the sound stops. Do not turn around. Do not run. Rule number 3. The break room coffee is safe to drink. The water fountain on the second floor is not, under any circumstances. Rule number 4. If Subject 89 asks you a question, you must answer with a lie. Any lie will do, but it must be false. Rule number 5. Count the doors in your assigned hallway at the start of every shift. There should be 12. If there are more or fewer, report immediately to your supervisor. The list went on for 30 pages. What happens if you break a rule? I asked. Tommy looked at the monitors, not at me. Different things. Depends on the rule, depends on the subject. But nothing good, man. Nothing good. I spent the next 8 hours reading the handbook until my eyes burned. Some rules made a kind of sense, like not entering certain cells without backup. Others seemed arbitrary, bizarre. Why walk backwards when you heard children laughing? Why lie to Subject 89? At 10:45, Tommy and I began our shift. He showed me the monitor setup. 16 screens showing different cells and hallways. He taught me how to check the equipment, how to log observations, how to use the radio if something went wrong. Okay, so the most important thing, Tommy said, pulling up a camera feed labeled Subject 47. This guy. Never ever look him in the eyes through the window. Through cameras is fine. Through reflections is fine. But not directly through the glass. The feed showed a cell that looked almost comfortable. A bed, a small desk, a toilet behind a privacy screen. Sitting on the bed was a man who looked completely ordinary. Middle-aged graying hair, wearing a gray jumpsuit. He sat perfectly still, hands folded in his lap, staring at nothing. He looks normal, I said. Yeah, that's what everyone thinks. Tommy switched to a different camera angle. Just trust me on this one. I saw what happened to the last guy who looked at him directly. What happened? Tommy's leg bounced faster. He started screaming. Said he could see something behind Subject 47, something huge and hungry. They had to sedate him and he got transferred. Transferred where? I don't know, man. They don't tell us. People just disappear. At 11 o'clock exactly, we began the first round. Tommy led me through Wing D, showing me each section, each subject's cell, each place where I needed to be careful. Most of the cells were dark. A few had viewing windows that showed ordinary-looking rooms with extraordinary occupants. We stopped at Subject 89's cell. There was no window, just a speaker mounted next to the door and a small slot for food delivery. "This one's tricky," Tommy whispered. "It talks sometimes. Sounds like a kid. Real sweet voice. But remember the rule. Lie to any question it asks," I finished. "Right. And whatever you do, don't feel bad about lying to a kid's voice. It's not a kid. It's something else." We moved on. The hallways were colder than they should have been. Our footsteps echoed too loudly. And everywhere, that smell underneath the disinfectant, like something rotting in the walls. When we reached hallway C, Tommy checked his watch. 7:35. We're good. But we need to be out of here by 8 o'clock. Why? What happens at 8 o'clock? Just, you'll hear it eventually. When you do, remember the rule. Walk backwards. Don't turn around. The first week passed in a blur of exhaustion and paranoia. I followed the rules religiously, checking and rechecking the handbook during my breaks. I counted the doors in my hallway every shift. 12 doors, always 12, numbered 1 through 12 with no gaps. On my 4th shift, I had my first real encounter with Subject 47. I was doing rounds alone, while Tommy was on break. I approached Subject 47's cell and looked through the observation window, careful to keep my eyes below the subject's neck level. He was sitting on his bed, as always, perfectly still. Then my eyes drifted up, just for a second, just a momentary lapse in concentration. I made direct eye contact with Subject 47. He smiled. It was a normal smile, friendly even, but in the reflection on the polished metal door frame to my right, I saw something different. The reflection showed Subject 47 standing, not sitting, and behind him, taking up the entire back wall of the cell, was something massive, something with too many limbs and eyes that burned like coals, and a mouth that opened and opened and opened. I jerked my gaze away, my heart hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. I stumbled backward, hit the opposite wall, and slid down to sit on the cold floor. Tommy found me there 5 minutes later, still shaking. "You looked at him," he said. Not a question. I didn't mean to. It was just for a second. Jesus, man. Tommy helped me up. How bad was it? There was something behind him. In the reflection, something huge. Tommy's face went pale. "Yeah, that's what the last guy said too. Can you keep working? Do you need to report to medical?" I took a deep breath. "I'm okay. I can keep working." "You sure?" "Because if you're not..." "I'm sure." It was just a second. I looked away. Tommy studied my face, then nodded slowly. "Okay. But if you start seeing things, if you can't sleep, If you keep thinking about what you saw, you tell me immediately. That's how it starts. How what starts? The obsession. People who look at subject 47, they start needing to look again. They start dreaming about what they saw. They start spending more and more time near his cell. And eventually, he trailed off. Eventually what? Eventually, they opened the door. That night, I barely slept. When I did, I dreamed of eyes like burning coals and a mouth that never stopped opening. The next week, a woman from accounting named Lisa Warren started bringing files down to Wing D occasionally. She was new, maybe a month with the foundation, and she was friendly in a way that felt out of place in the cold concrete hallways. She smiled at me during shift changes, made small talk about the weather, even though we were 7 levels underground. On Tuesday, I saw her drinking from the water fountain on the 2nd floor. "Hey Lisa," I called out, walking quickly toward her. "You shouldn't drink from that fountain." She looked up, wiping her mouth. "What? Why not?" "It's in the rules. The 2nd floor fountain isn't safe." She laughed. "The water here is fine. It's probably cleaner than anything you'd get outside this facility. I know it seems weird, but the rule is there for a reason. Just use the break room sink, okay? You're sweet to worry, but I'm fine." She smiled and walked away, heels clicking on the linoleum. I reported the incident to Dr. Weaver during our nightly briefing. She made a note in her tablet, her expression neutral. "Thank you for reporting, Mr. Reed. We'll address it with accounting." Lisa didn't come to Wing D the next day, or the day after that. On Friday, I asked Dr. Weaver about her. "Ms. Warren has been transferred to another facility," she said without looking up from her tablet. "Which facility? That information is classified." I didn't push it, but when I left work that night, I saw Lisa's car still in the parking lot. A blue Honda with a dent in the back bumper and a parking sticker that was 2 weeks from expiring. Snow was starting to accumulate on the windshield. The car was still there a week later, buried under 6 inches of snow. I wanted to ask Tommy about it, but he was acting strange, more nervous than usual, jumping at sounds I couldn't hear, constantly checking over his shoulder. "You okay, man?" I asked during a break. "Do you ever see things in your peripheral vision?" He asked instead of answering, like someone standing there. "But when you turn to look, they're gone?" "No. Do you?" He rubbed his eyes. "Yeah, for the past week. Ever since I... Forget it." "Ever since you what?" "Nothing. I'm just tired." But I could tell it wasn't nothing. Tommy was scared of something, and that scared me. On Thursday night, around 10:15, I was walking through hallway C when I heard it. Laughter, children's laughter, high and bright, echoing from somewhere ahead of me. I froze, my hand instinctively going to the handbook in my pocket, even though I'd memorized that rule. Walk backwards. Don't turn around. I started walking backward, slowly, keeping my eyes forward. The laughter grew louder, closer, more children joining in, like a whole playground full of kids playing some game I couldn't see. Shadows moved at the edge of my vision, small shapes darting across the hallway, running from door to door. The temperature dropped so suddenly, I could see my breath. I kept walking backward, step by careful step. The laughter was all around me now, so close I could almost feel breath on my face. My heart was a drum in my chest. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to turn around, to see what was behind me. I didn't. I reached the junction with hallway B, and the laughter stopped. Complete silence. So sudden it was almost painful. I stood there for a long moment, breathing hard, before I finally dared to look down. The floor was wet. Small footprints, child-sized, led from hallway C into the junction where I stood. As I watched, they began to evaporate, disappearing like they were never there. I radioed Tommy. "Hey, I just had the hallway C thing happen." Static, then his voice shaky. "You followed the rule. Walked backward?" "Yeah, I followed the rule." "Good. Good. That's good, man. Just don't think about it too much, okay? Don't try to figure out what they were." But how could I not think about it? How could I not wonder what would have happened if I'd turned around? If I'd looked at whatever was making those sounds? That was the thing about the Foundation. Every rule made you more curious about what would happen if you broke it. Every forbidden action became more tempting simply because it was forbidden. At midnight, I had my first encounter with Subject 89. I was delivering its meal, a tray of food that looked and smelled completely normal. Tommy had done the midnight feeding every night until now, but Dr. Weaver wanted me to start taking turns. I approached the cell and knocked on the door, as the rules specified. Then I opened the slot and slid the tray through. "Thank you," said a voice from inside. A child's voice, sweet and polite. I didn't respond. The rules said not to engage unless it asked a question. I started to walk away. "Daniel Reed," the voice said. "Born April 15th. Your mother's name was Caroline. She died when you were 7. I stopped. My blood turned to ice. That information wasn't in any file I'd seen. I'd never told anyone at the Foundation about my mother. She died in a car accident 2 decades ago, and I barely remembered her anymore. Just fragments. The smell of her perfume, the way she sang while cooking. "I can show you where she is," Subject 89 continued. Its voice was so sweet, so innocent. "I can let you say goodbye properly. Would you like that, Daniel?" It was asking me a question. The rules said I had to answer with a lie. "No," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I wouldn't like that." "Good," the voice said, and I could hear the smile in it. "Liars last longer here." I walked away on shaking legs, my mind reeling. How did it know about my mother? What was Subject 89? And what did it mean about liars lasting longer? I didn't tell Tommy about the encounter. I didn't tell anyone. I just added it to the growing list of things I was trying not to think about. On Friday night, something changed. I was at the monitor station when Tommy returned from his rounds early. He was pale, sweating, his hands trembling as he grabbed the desk for support. "Tommy, what happened?" "I counted the doors," he said. "There are 13. My stomach dropped. "What?" "In hallway D. 13 doors. There's supposed to be 12. I pulled up the camera feed for hallway D. Tommy was right. Between doors 7 and 8, there was another door. It was painted the same institutional grey as all the others, but it had no number, no window, nothing to distinguish it except that it shouldn't exist. "Which door is it?" I asked. "I mean, is it an extra door? Or did one of the regular doors move?" "I don't know. It's just there, between 7 and 8. He grabbed the radio. "I have to report this. Rule 5 says to report immediately if the door count is wrong." He radioed Dr. Weaver, explaining the situation. She arrived 20 minutes later with 2 security personnel I'd never seen before. They were armed. "Show me," she said. We took her to hallway D. The 13 doors were still there, including the unmarked one between 7 and 8. Dr. Weaver walked slowly down the hallway, examining each door carefully. When she reached the unmarked door, she placed her hand flat against it. "Interesting," she murmured. "Mr. Vasquez, when did you first notice this door?" "During my last round, about 40 minutes ago." "And you, Mr. Reed, have you been in this hallway tonight?" "No, ma'am. I've been at the monitors." She nodded slowly. "Both of you will remain at the monitoring station. Do not enter hallway D until I give clearance. Is that understood?" "Yes, ma'am," we said in unison. Dr. Weaver and her security team stayed in hallway D for the next hour. We watched on the monitors as they examined the unmarked door from every angle. They didn't try to open it. At 6:47 in the morning, as our shift was ending, Dr. Weaver returned to the monitoring station. "The door is gone," she said simply. "What?" Tommy pulled up the feed. She was right. 12 doors in hallway D, no unmarked door between 7 and 8. The wall was solid, showing no sign that there had ever been an opening there. "This is a known phenomenon," Dr. Weaver continued. "You both followed protocol correctly by reporting it immediately. Good work. However, I'm going to recommend that you both speak with our psychological support team. Witnessing anomalies can be unsettling." "We're fine," I said, though I wasn't sure that was true. Dr. Weaver studied my face for a long moment. "Nevertheless, I'll schedule appointments for both of you next week. It's mandatory, I'm afraid." After she left, Tommy and I sat in silence, staring at the monitors. "That was the door," Tommy finally said. "That's what people talk about in whispers. The 13th door." "What do you mean?" "I've heard stories. From people who've been here longer, sometimes a door appears that shouldn't exist. People have opened it before, gone inside. He swallowed hard. They don't come out. Then why does it appear?" "What's it for?" "I don't know, man. I don't think anyone knows. That's the thing about this place. We contain things we don't understand. We follow rules written by people who might not even work here anymore. We survive, day by day, shift by shift." I went home that morning and couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that door, about where it might have led, about what might be inside a room that only existed sometimes. The next week, Tommy got worse. He was jumpy, paranoid, constantly looking over his shoulder at things I couldn't see. During our Wednesday shift, he pulled me aside during break. "I need to tell you something," he said. "I broke a rule." My chest tightened. "Which rule?" "Last week, before you saw the 13th door, I was feeding subject 89 and it kept talking, and I snapped. I told it to shut up. I spoke to it without it asking me a question. Tommy." "I know. I know I shouldn't have. But ever since then, I keep seeing someone, a woman in a grey dress. She's always at the edge of my vision. When I turn to look, she's gone. But she's getting closer, Daniel. Each day, she's closer. You need to report this to Dr. Weaver. Are you crazy? You know what happens when you report breaking a rule. They transfer you, and people who get transferred don't come back. What else can you do? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I can follow every other rule perfectly and hope that makes up for it. I can pray that whatever I started will just stop. That's all I can do. But it didn't stop. I could see it getting worse. Tommy started flinching at nothing. He'd pause mid-sentence, his eyes tracking something I couldn't see. He lost weight. The circles under his eyes deepened until they looked like bruises. On Friday night at 2:47, the alarms went off. Red lights flashed through Wing D, and a mechanical voice announced, "Containment breach. Wing D. All personnel evacuate to safe zones. Containment breach. Wing D." Tommy and I looked at each other, then at the monitors. Most showed empty hallways, but one camera, the one pointed at Subject 89's cell, showed the door standing open. "No," Tommy whispered. "No, no, no." Another camera showed Tommy's location from an hour ago when he'd done the feeding run. The footage showed him approaching Subject 89's cell with the food tray, but the door was already open. The rule said if the door was ever open when you arrived, don't enter. Radio for emergency lockdown immediately. The camera showed Tommy standing in the doorway for a long moment, the tray shaking in his hands. Then he stepped inside. "Tommy, what did you do?" I breathed. "I don't know," he said. "I don't remember. I swear I don't remember going in there." On the current feed, security personnel were approaching the cell. They were in full tactical gear, moving information. They reached the doorway and stopped. One of them leaned in, then quickly pulled back. He spoke into his radio, but we couldn't hear what he said. A moment later, they entered the cell. They emerged carrying Tommy. Except it couldn't be Tommy, because Tommy was standing right next to me. The Tommy on the monitor was limp, his eyes open but unseeing. His mouth was moving, forming words over and over again, though we couldn't hear what he was saying. "That's not me," Tommy said. "That can't be me. I'm right here." I looked at him, really looked at him, and I realized something was wrong. The shadows didn't fall quite right on his face. When he moved, it was just slightly off, like a video with the frame rate too low. "Tommy," I said slowly, "when did you last eat?" I don't remember. Yesterday? The day before? "When did you last leave the facility?" He opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. His face went blank. "I don't know. I don't remember leaving." "Daniel, I don't remember leaving." Dr. Weaver's voice came over the radio. "Mr. Reed, report to the monitoring station immediately. Come alone." I looked at Tommy, at the thing that looked like Tommy. "I have to go." "Don't leave me here," he said. "Please, something's wrong. Something's really wrong." But I left. What else could I do? Dr. Weaver was waiting at the monitoring station with 2 security guards. She didn't look surprised to see me there. "Mr. Reed," she said calmly, "your partner has been compromised. He entered Subject 89 cell despite protocol. He will be moved to medical wing for observation." "For how long?" "Indefinitely." "What happened to him?" Dr. Weaver's expression didn't change. "He broke the rules, Mr. Reed. There are always consequences. You'll be assigned a new partner for your next shift. Kevin Hayes. He's been briefed on your situation." "My situation?" "3 partners in 4 months. You're either very unlucky or very good at following the rules. Time will tell which." She paused. "I suggest you go home. Get some rest. We'll see you Monday night." I drove home in a daze. When I got to my apartment, I sat in my car for 20 minutes, trying to process what had happened. Tommy was gone. Not dead, maybe, but gone. Transferred to the medical wing, where I'd been told never to go. And what had I seen in that monitoring station? Had that been Tommy standing next to me, or something else? Had the real Tommy been in that cell the whole time, while a copy of him worked beside me? I didn't sleep all weekend. Monday came too fast. Kevin Hayes was exactly as Tommy had described him: nervous, twitchy, unable to meet my eyes for more than a second. He'd been with the Foundation for 8 months and had already been through 3 partners. "What happened to them?" I asked during our first shift together. "First one opened the 13th door," Kevin said, his leg bouncing like Tommy's used to. "Second one broke Rule 17 about the basement level 4 stairwell. Third one just stopped showing up. They say he transferred, but his car's still in the lot." "You ever think about quitting?" Kevin laughed, but it sounded like crying. "You can't quit the Foundation, man. You know that by now, right? The things we've seen, the things we know, they can't let us leave. We either work here until we die, or we break a rule and become subjects. That's it. Those are the only options." I wanted to tell him he was wrong, but I couldn't. The weeks blurred together. I followed the rules perfectly. I didn't look at Subject 47 through the window. I walked backward when I heard children laughing. I lied to Subject 89's questions. I counted the doors religiously. 12. Always 12. But I started seeing things in the facility. Small things at first. Shadows that moved wrong. Sounds that didn't have sources. A woman in a grey dress at the end of hallways, vanishing when I turned to look. Was I seeing what Tommy had seen? Was I being affected by something, even though I'd followed all the rules? At midnight on Thursday, 3 weeks after Tommy's incident, I approached Subject 89's cell for feeding. I knocked, opened the slot, slid the tray through. "You're doing so well, Daniel," the child's voice said. "Following all the rules. Being so careful." I didn't respond. "But you want to know what happened to your friend, don't you? You want to know if he's still in there, still him." It was asking a question. I had to answer with a lie. "No," I said. "I don't want to know." "Such a good liar," Subject 89 said. "That's why you'll last longer than he did. But you'll end up the same place eventually. Everyone does." I walked away, but the words followed me. Everyone ends up the same place eventually. I started paying more attention to the facility, looking at things I'd been trained not to look at. I noticed that certain hallways led to wings I'd never visited. that certain doors require clearances I didn't have. That some rooms on the monitors never showed any activity, yet the lights were always on. During a break, while Kevin was in the bathroom, I accessed the personnel files on the main computer. I had to dig through security protocols, but I found what I was looking for. Tommy Vasquez. Status: transferred to medical wing. Room 217. Designation: Subject 112. I scrolled further back, found more names. People who had been transferred. Lisa Warren from accounting. Status: transferred. Designation: Subject 97. Another name I recognized from my first week. Status: transferred. Designation: Subject 103. Dozens of names, all transferred, all redesignated as subjects. The Foundation didn't fire people who broke the rules. It contained them, studied them, turned them into the very things we were supposed to be guarding. I heard footsteps and quickly closed the files. Kevin returned, looking even more nervous than usual. "You okay?" I asked. "I keep thinking about what you said, about quitting. And I realized you're right. We can't leave. We're already trapped." Kevin, dash. "No, listen. It's not just that they won't let us leave. It's that we can't. I tried last month, drove away, made it 2 hours. Then I started feeling wrong, like something was pulling me back. I couldn't breathe right, couldn't think straight. I turned around and came back, and the feeling went away." He looked at me with hollow eyes. "We're tethered here, man. They did something to us. We can't leave." I wanted to tell him he was paranoid, but part of me believed him. That night, during my 3 o'clock rounds, I found myself standing outside room 217, in a hallway I technically wasn't assigned to. The door had a small window. I looked through it. Tommy sat in the corner of a small concrete cell, his back to me. His mouth was moving, a constant stream of whispered words I couldn't hear. I pressed my ear to the door. I could just barely make out what he was saying. Rule 1, never look at subject 47. Rule 2, walk backwards in hallway C. Rule 3, don't drink from the second floor fountain. Rule 4. He was reciting the rules, over and over, the rules for agents, for people who worked in Wing D. But these were different too. Mixed in were other rules I'd never heard before. Rule 17, subjects must face the corner during feeding. Rule 18, subjects must not communicate with each other. Rule 19, rules for subjects, rules for the people in the cells. Tommy was still following rules, still trying to survive by obeying protocols. But now, he was on the other side. Now, he was the thing being contained. I backed away from the door, my heart racing. Dr. Weaver found me in the hallway 3 minutes later. She didn't look surprised to see me there. "Mr. Reed," she said calmly, "this wing is not part of your assigned rounds." "I know. I'm sorry. You wanted to check on your former partner. I understand." She studied my face. "But I need you to understand something. Mr. Vasquez is no longer your colleague. He is a subject under study. What he experiences, what he becomes, is data that helps us better understand the anomalies we contain. He's still a person." "Is he?" Dr. Weaver tilted her head slightly. The thing wearing Mr. Vasquez's face, sitting in your monitoring station while the real Mr. Vasquez was trapped in Subject 89's cell. What was that? The man reciting rules he's never read in a language he doesn't speak. What is that? The Foundation doesn't deal in simple categories like person or not person, Mr. Reed. We deal with what exists, regardless of what we wish it to be. She placed a hand on my shoulder, and her touch felt like ice through my uniform. Go back to your station. Complete your shift. Follow the rules. That's all that keeps you on this side of the doors. She paused. For now. I returned to the monitoring station. Kevin didn't ask where I'd been. We finished the shift in silence. 2 weeks later, I was called to Dr. Weaver's office during my break. She sat behind her desk, her expression neutral as always. Mr. Reed, your performance has been exemplary. 6 months without a single rule violation. That's quite rare. Thank you. Because of this, we're offering you a promotion of sorts, a reassignment to a different observation role, higher pay, different responsibilities. I should have felt relieved, excited even. But something in her voice made my skin crawl. What kind of observation role? The Special Observation Unit. It's a single operator station monitoring subjects that require specialized attention. Subjects that were once Foundation personnel. My mouth went dry. You want me to watch the people who broke the rules? Yes, it's an important role. We need to understand the progression, document the changes. You've proven you can be objective, that you can follow protocols even under stress. You're perfect for this position. And if I decline? Dr. Weaver smiled, and it was the first time I'd seen her smile. It was worse than her neutral expression. Then we'll find something else for you. Perhaps a position in one of our more hands-on research departments. But Mr. Reed, I should mention that declining this offer might raise questions about your psychological fitness for your current role. We might need to do additional evaluations, very thorough evaluations. I understood. Take the promotion or become a subject myself. Those were my options. When do I start? I asked. Tonight. Your new station is on basement level 5. Retry, FT, continue, edit. I'll have someone show you the way. The Special Observation Unit was exactly what Dr. Weaver had described. A single room with no windows, lit by the glow of dozens of monitors. Each screen showed a different cell, a different subject, a different former employee who had broken the rules or simply stopped being useful. The security guard who escorted me there didn't speak. He unlocked the door, gestured for me to enter, and left. I heard the lock click behind me. The room was small, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet. A desk sat in the center with a worn office chair that creaked when I sat down. The monitors formed a wall in front of me, each one labeled with a subject number. A new handbook sat on the desk, bound in the same black leather as my first one, but thicker. I picked it up and read the title page. Special Observation Unit, Protocols and Procedures. The rules started on page 2. Rule number 1. Never leave your assigned observation room during your shift, for any reason. If there is an emergency, remain in the room and wait for security to extract you. Rule number 2. If a subject looks directly at the camera, close your eyes and count to 30. Do not open them until you reach 30, even if you hear sounds from the monitors. Rule number 3. The red phone will ring once per shift. You must answer it, but do not speak. Listen to what is said, then hang up. Do not respond to anything you hear. Rule number 4. If you see yourself on any monitor, report it immediately to your supervisor. Do not attempt to determine which cell the image is coming from. Rule number 5. Document all observations in the provided logbook. Use only the approved terminology. Do not editorialize or include personal observations. There were 30 more rules. I read them all, my hands shaking slightly. Then I looked at the monitors. The top left screen showed Subject 97, Lisa Warren. She sat in the corner of her cell, and she was different now. Her skin had a translucent quality, like I could see through her to the concrete wall behind. She was writing something on the wall with her finger, though I couldn't see any marks appearing. Her mouth moved constantly, forming words I couldn't hear. 3 screens over, Subject 103, a man I'd seen in the cafeteria during my first weeks. He stood perfectly still in the center of his cell, his arms at his sides. But his shadow moved independently, stretching and contracting, reaching toward the walls like it was trying to escape his body. Bottom row, center, Subject 112. Tommy. He was still in the corner, still whispering. But now I could see what he couldn't when I'd visited. The corner he faced wasn't a corner anymore. It opened onto something else, something dark and vast that seemed to extend far beyond the physical space of the cell. He was staring into it, whispering the rules, and something in that darkness was listening. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. This was my job now. Watch them deteriorate, document the progression, see what the Foundation had done to people who had broken the rules, or, in some cases, followed them too well. I opened the logbook. The previous entries dated back months, different handwriting, different observers. I recognized one name, the person who'd read the handbook before me, whose position I'd taken. His entries started neat and professional, clinical observations about subject behavior. They ended 3 weeks ago. The final entry was just one sentence, written over and over until it filled the page. I see myself in cell 89. I see myself in cell 89. I see myself in cell 89. That observer's status, according to a notepaper clipped to the page, was transferred. Subject 127. I was sitting in a prison cell. The door was locked from the outside. The monitors showed me what I would become if I didn't follow every rule perfectly. And somewhere in this facility, there was an empty cell waiting for me. Subject 128 or 135 or 147. A number instead of a name. I checked my watch. 11:17. My shift ended at 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 hours and 43 minutes. At 11:45, Subject 97. Lisa looked directly at the camera. I remembered the rule. Close your eyes. Count to 30. I closed my eyes. 1, 2, 3. From the monitor, I heard Lisa's voice, not distorted by speakers, clear as if she was in the room with me. Daniel, I know you're there. I know you're watching. 4, 5, 6. They told me I'd be transferred. They told me it was temporary, but I'm still here. I'll always be here. 7, 8, 9. You will be too eventually. Everyone who works here ends up in a cell, on one side or the other. 10, 11, 12. Something touched my shoulder. I felt fingers, cold and real, pressing into my uniform. 13, 14, 15. Open your eyes, Daniel. Look at me. Really look at me. See what they did. 16, 17, 18. The fingers tightened. I could feel breath on the back of my neck. 19, 20, 21. You can't help any of us. You can only join us. 22, 23, 24. The hand slid from my shoulder to my throat. Not squeezing, just resting there. A gentle touch that promised violence. 25, 26, 27. When you open your eyes, I'll still be here, in the screen, but also behind you, always behind you. 28, 29, 30. I opened my eyes. Lisa was back in the corner of her cell, facing away from the camera. My shoulder felt cold where she touched me, but there was no one behind me. The room was empty except for me and the monitors, and the growing certainty that the walls were closer than they had been before. I wrote in the logbook with trembling hands. 11:45. Subject 97 made direct eye contact with camera. Protocol followed. No anomalies observed during count. It was a lie. But what else could I write? That I'd felt a ghost touch me? That I'd heard a dead woman speak? Who would believe me? And even if they did, what would they do? Transfer me? Make me subject 128? The hours crawled by. I watched the monitors, made my observations, tried not to think about the locked door behind me, or the cells in front of me, or the space between that was growing thinner with every shift. At 2:47, I saw movement on the monitor showing subject 112. Tommy turned around. His face was wrong. Not just wrong, but impossible. His features kept shifting, rearranging themselves like a puzzle being solved and unsolved over and over. One moment he looked like Tommy, the next like something wearing Tommy's skin, the next like nothing that had ever been human. But his eyes, those stayed constant. They stared at the camera with an intelligence that was too old, too vast, too hungry. He smiled with a mouth that had too many teeth. I closed my eyes and counted to 30, my heart hammering. When I opened them, he was back in the corner, facing the impossible darkness, whispering the rules. At 4:15, the red phone rang. I stared at it. Old rotary style. Red plastic faded to pink. It sat on the corner of the desk, and I hadn't even noticed it until it started ringing. I picked up the receiver and held it to my ear. Said nothing, as the rules instructed. Static at first, then breathing. Deep, wet breathing that sounded like it was coming from underwater. Then a voice. My voice. "This is subject 128, my voice said from the phone. Day 1 of observation. Subject shows standard signs of distress but maintains rule compliance. Psychological evaluation pending. The breathing returned. Then my voice again. Different now. Older, rougher, broken. Day 30. Subject 128 has stopped eating, refuses to respond to stimuli, sits in northeast corner, facing the wall, whispers constantly but words are incomprehensible. More breathing, then a third version of my voice, barely recognizable. Day 90. Subject 128. No longer resembles original form. Recommend termination. But Dr. Weaver insists observation continue. Subject is becoming something else, something new. We need to understand the process. The line went dead. I hung up, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the receiver. That was my future. 90 days. 3 months from now, I would be in one of these cells, transforming into something that wasn't me anymore. That was what the phone call meant. That was what I was being told. Unless I kept following the rules, unless I was perfect. I looked at the monitors, at Lisa and Tommy and the others, at the cells that held former employees who had done exactly what I was doing now, until the moment they didn't. At 6:30, with 30 minutes left in my shift, I saw something that made my blood freeze. On monitor 17, which had been showing an empty cell all night, there was now someone inside. A man sitting at a desk, surrounded by monitors, wearing the same uniform I wore, in a room that looked exactly like the one I was in. I leaned closer to the screen. The man leaned closer too. I raised my hand. He raised his hand. Rule number 4. If you see yourself on any monitor, report it immediately. I grabbed the radio with shaking hands. This is Reed in special observation. I need Dr. Weaver. Emergency. Dr. Weaver is unavailable, the voice on the radio said. What is the nature of your emergency? I'm seeing myself on monitor 17. Rule 4 says, understood. Remain in your observation room. Do not approach the monitor. Someone will be with you shortly. I sat back in my chair, keeping my eyes away from monitor 17. But I could see it in my peripheral vision. The man who looked like me, sitting in a room that looked like mine, staring at monitors that showed. I couldn't help it. I looked. The monitors in monitor 17 showed the same cells mine showed, except on one screen, the screen that would be monitor 17 from his perspective. There was another room, another man at a desk, another infinite regression of observation rooms and observers, stacked like Russian dolls, each one watching the one inside it, each one trapped in their own small prison. How many of me were there? How many observation rooms? Which one was real? Dr. Weaver arrived at 6:55, 5 minutes before my shift ended. She unlocked the door and entered, followed by 2 security guards. Mr. Reed, she said, you reported seeing yourself on the monitors. Monitor 17. He's still there. She looked at the screen. Her expression didn't change. I see. This is a known phenomenon. Nothing to be concerned about. Nothing to be concerned about. There's another me in another room? Is there? She tilted her head. Or is there just an image on a screen? How do you know you're not the one in monitor 17? How do you know this room is the real one? I opened my mouth to respond and realized I didn't have an answer. Your shift is over, Mr. Reed. Go home. Rest. We'll discuss this further at your next shift. I don't want to come back. I understand. It's a difficult position. But you signed a contract. You made a commitment. And more importantly, you've seen things now. Things that can't be unseen. Things that mean you can never leave the Foundation. She smiled that terrible smile. You're one of us now, Daniel. For better or worse, the only question is which side of the monitors you'll end up on. The security guards escorted me out. As we walked through the halls of basement level 5, I saw doors I'd never noticed before, cells without numbers, windows that showed darkness so complete it seemed to absorb light. One door had a small plaque, Subject 128. It was empty now, but it was waiting. I drove home in a daze. My apartment felt wrong, like it belonged to someone else. I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen my neighbors. Couldn't remember the last time I'd done anything except work and sleep and prepare for more work. I looked at my phone. 3 missed calls from my sister. I hadn't spoken to her in months. Hadn't spoken to anyone outside the Foundation in months. When had that happened? When had the facility become my entire world? I tried to sleep but couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the monitors, saw Tommy whispering in his corner, saw Lisa fading away, saw myself sitting in a room watching myself sit in a room watching myself. Monday came too fast. I drove to the facility because I didn't know what else to do, because Dr. Weaver was right, I couldn't leave, not because they wouldn't let me, but because I didn't know how to exist anywhere else anymore. I went to the Special Observation Unit. The door was already unlocked. Inside, everything was the same. The monitors showing their subjects, the red phone in the corner, the handbook on the desk. I sat down and looked at monitor 17. Empty, just an empty cell. No desk, no monitors, no other version of me. I checked the logbook. My entry from Friday was gone. The pages for that day had been torn out, leaving ragged edges. A new entry in handwriting I didn't recognize simply read, Subject 100-27, transferred to cell 89. Observation continuing. Subject 128. Designation reassigned. I looked at the monitors again, counting them carefully. 17 screens. On monitor 17, a man sat at a desk surrounded by monitors. He wore my uniform. He had my face. He was writing in a logbook, his hand moving frantically across the page. I picked up my own logbook and started writing, documenting the night's observations as the rules required. On monitor 17, the other me looked up from his logbook. Our eyes met across the screen. He looked terrified. I wondered if I looked the same to him. The red phone rang. I answered it but didn't speak. This is Subject 128, said a voice that might have been mine once. Day 1 of observation. I hung up and continued writing. This was my life now. This was what I'd become. An observer watching subjects who used to be observers. A prisoner pretending to be a guard. A ghost documenting other ghosts in a facility that collected the impossible and called it science. The rules sat on my desk, 35 of them, each one a bar in my cage. I would follow them perfectly. I would document everything. I would sit in this room for 7 hours and 43 minutes every night and watch people transform into things that shouldn't exist. And somewhere, in a cell I hadn't seen yet, Subject 128 was waiting, empty now, but patient, because Dr. Weaver was right about one thing. Everyone who works here ends up in a cell, on one side or the other. I just didn't know which side I was on anymore. The monitors glowed in the darkness. 34 cells, 34 subjects, 34 people who had followed the rules until they couldn't, or broken them and paid the price. On monitor 17, the other me kept writing. His hand never stopped moving across the page, filling entry after entry, documenting observations that would never matter to anyone except whoever came after us, if anyone came after us. If we weren't all already subjects, just waiting to realize it. I picked up my pen and continued writing, because that's what the rules said to do. And following the rules was all I had left. It was all any of us had ever had. The Foundation doesn't let you leave. It just changes what door you're behind. And I was starting to forget which side of the glass I was really on.